MMORPGs, games with vast worlds for you to immerse yourself in. Some are much bigger than others, and all try their best to put you in the shoes of the hero that is going to save the world. But no Runescape. Runescape is based on a point and click system, and thus, to modern audiences, it feels clunky and certainly does not give the same freedom WASD type movement does. On top of that, while some storylines end up with you saving Gillinor, the game does not treat you as this protagonist hero that is gonna save everyone all the time. Throughout most of it, you are just a simple adventurer going throughout the game, interacting with its world. In fact, sometimes characters do point to the fact that you're kind of useless. But that's exactly what RuneScape asks of you. RuneScape gives you tools to, more than being invested in a power fantasy, being invested in a world that feels alive. And how does the world feel alive? Through its interaction. RuneScape is a game that pays a lot of attention to the details, and I've lost count of the amount of MMORPGs that I've played that have these vast worlds that feel really empty, with not much to do, where the scenery just feels like, well, scenery. And that's where RuneScape differs. Instead of having a big world to make it feel real, RuneScape tends to focus much more on the details the world has. If I find myself in a forest in World of Warcraft, for example, that doesn't mean much. But in RuneScape, well, that's an opportunity to maybe cut some trees, light some fires, and maybe, cook the rabbit that you just got from over there. In RuneScape, every part of the map feels like an interaction ready to be made. While most of the game is indeed set dressing, the fact you can interact with it does a much better job at, feeling immersive rather than the game just trying to trick you with a big map. Quick story. One day I was at Ardoin at the player-owned farm, and I saw a cat going around called Pickles. This is the cat of the farm that catches rats. And that's fine, games sometimes have things like this, just a little detail. Well, in RuneScape, there's an item called the Cat Speak Amulet, and after weeks of going to the farm daily, it hit me. What is on Pickle's mind? Like, what is on their mind? What are they thinking about? So, I equipped the Cat Speak Amulet, and Pickles explained their job at the farm, which was to catch vermin, and how many vermin have they caught during that day? There's an achievement to speak to Pickles once they've caught over 100 vermin in a day. And it's in these moments that RuneScape really shines. And this interaction isn't unique. You can do this with so many cats around Gillinor and ask them what they have to say. And to says cat says a number of other things. For instance, after completing Ghosts Ahoy, you are allowed into Port Phasmaris. But if you don't have the Ghost Speak Amulet, the ghosts will just woo at you. You can still speak with them, there's nothing stopping you, you just don't understand what they have to say. It would be so easy for the devs to just require you to have the amulet with you, to even use the mechanic, but instead, they allow you to use the mechanic. They allow you to interact with the world. This does a much more phenomenal job at keeping players immersed in the world than any big map ever will. One day I was killing Varrock cards to train my stats a bit, and I thought, wait, will the dog eat the bones? I mean, dogs like bones, right? And wouldn't you know it, yeah, you can feed the dog with the bones you get from the cards, or with any bones for that matter. The game is filled with these interactions, things you just think of doing and then you can actually do. These are just mere details completely unneeded for the gameplay, and yet there they are. And to take this a step further, the examine button. The examine button is supposed to give you extra information, and well, it does that. And in a way, this actually makes the world feel much more alive, even when you can't interact with it. Is there a table that doesn't have an interactable option? Well, you can examine it. The examine button is, in my opinion, what truly makes the RuneScape world feel like something that got a lot of attention put into it. Instead of just being background scenery that just sits there for the eye, there's a gameplay feature you can use to interact with it, which makes the world feel, by extension, much more alive. Is there a chair that you can sit on? Well, you can examine it. Can't get on a boat? That means that sailing hasn't been released yet. But you can examine it. Yeah, that's the best part. The examine button can just display any text you want, be it helpful texts, but not just helpful ones. Another story. One day I was at a player on farm. I guess a lot of things do tend to happen there. I was kind of bored, and usually sometimes I start spamming a key on my keyboard, which is usually the caps lock when I'm playing, or, I just start right-clicking a bunch of things because I need my brain to keep going. And I, decided to just randomly start examining things, which is one of those things I do to keep my brain focused, including the silo, which has, the same initials as my name, and I was like, I wonder what it has to say. And examine text went something like this. When they go silo, we go Psy. This is not extra info for the silo. In fact, that's a pen. And yet again, the game's full of them. The thing is, this doesn't really make me feel immersed in the world. If anything, it makes it easier for the immersion to be broken and for me to remember I'm just playing a game. And that's a good thing. What a lot of these interactions show is that above everything, above all the gameplay features, above all of the graphics, and above the story and everything, this game was made by people. People with things to say and statements to make. People that want to share their vision and love for art with those who appreciate it. And these interactions ooze that charm, that love that was put into the game by actual humans. I get to feel like I'm actually connecting through art with others that appreciate the same world I do and try their best to make it interesting and to make it a part of ourselves. One last story. When Anachronia came out, I was exploring the island, and I saw Lanikia, and I saw that Lanikia was a Slayer Master, and I thought, I wonder what tasks they are willing to give. So I went on Google, and I searched for Lanikia. And the results I got weren't RuneScape related. In reality, what Google told me is that Lanikia is the cluster of galaxies that the Milky Way, or own galaxy, is part of. Do you know what's special about Lanikia? Lanikia, as a Slayer Master, gives cluster tasks. Tasks where you can just defeat any type of monster you want. Just like how our galaxy is part of a cluster called Lanikia. I've learned something about the world because one of the devs probably enjoys astronomy and they decided to name an NPC with a specific thing for clusters after the name that our own cluster of our galaxies, or at least the galaxy that we're part of, has. More than anything with this little detail and Easter egg, I felt like I could actually appreciate someone and connect with someone in a human level that they appreciate astronomy and so do I. And as a result, I appreciate this Easter egg to the point where years after, I haven't exactly forgotten it either. In old school RuneScape, you can enter the waterfall dungeon without the amulet once you've completed the quest. That was my suggestion. In a way, a tiny part of me is in old school RuneScape thanks to Modash. And that's the thing. I know who is responsible for things in this game. I can talk to them. I can hear them talk about their artistic vision, being able to share their passion for this world. And that's really what makes RuneScape remarkable. These interactions don't just make it more fun for us players to interact with the world. These interactions remind us that this project is developed by real people, and the opportunity for us to be able to experience and connect with them over it. RuneScape isn't a world that immerses you into a power fantasy. RuneScape is a world that wants you to connect with other people through art. Hi, I know this video is a bit different and completely outside of my usual style, but I've been meaning to make it for a little while, and I think this approach will be helpful for some other future projects I'm also working on that are coming up later on in the next couple of months, since I actually feel it's easier to lay stuff out and actually, I don't know, make it a bit more engaging rather than just me explaining point by point like I do for my other content discussions where I mostly talk about the game design perspective of the game. I hope it was enjoyable and subscribe because I really need those subs, and I'll see you in the next video.